This is part 2 of Nationalize Everything. Can't go live on TikTok at all. Something's wrong. I think they're basically just shutting it off. Okay, so we're going to talk about the bond market. And I know you're probably like, oh God, here he goes with the bond market thing again. So just to remind you, 9/11 we had $3 trillion and now we have $36 trillion. And the plan, according to Marin, Trump's head of his economic advisors, is to play fuck around and find out with the tariffs. We've been through that. Nothing really changed. Interest rates haven't moved very much. They're sitting right below, the 30-year sitting right below 5%. And the plan is to issue, to control the long bonds, think of it like your mortgage, and then potentially issue 40 years like the Japanese do, or 50-year or even 100-year bonds, and those can be zero coupon, which is basically just, oh, I owe you $1 billion here on the back of an envelope, 100 years, come see us in 100 years. That's the plan. Now, I don't think Trump picks these people. Like, you know, that's my thing. Everybody wants to beat themselves up over our democracy. I'm like, I'm not really sure we live in a democracy. Then there's other people who are like, well, we live in an oligarchy and the Koch brothers and George Soros. I'm like, I don't really think that's how it works either. It's a conspiracy. We don't really know what's going on. And the previous video I made today, and now that the special military operation in Ukraine has ended, and now the state of Russia is out to completely destroy the state of Ukraine. The same way they did to a part of Georgia back in, 2006 or something like that. They will completely neutralize, demilitarize, de-Zelenskyize, the neo-bad people are called Banderites. They literally have an insignia like a mustache man. So the bond market and the Ukraine go together. The bond market and the end of the war on terror go together. Why? Because the full faith and credit of the United States is what the entire global financial system works off of. Everybody always wants to talk about the dollar and the dollar is going to collapse. And I think that's not really how it works, because we're so important for global trade, and whether it be we're exporting or importing. And the fact, it'd be like saying that the currency of Saudi Arabia is going to collapse. It's like, well, they got a lot of fucking oil. So, oil and gas, we're the biggest energy producer in the world. We also have coal, we have nuclear, we have some solar, on and on. So the collapse of the dollar. So with that in mind, so the Trump administration is, we're going to do the Doge thing, and we're going to supposedly cut $1 trillion out of the budget. That didn't happen. And we're going to tariff everybody. We're going to force everybody to buy our bonds, and we might make... The MMT story is the other way. The MMT story, this is Stephanie Kelton. Since I started Bruno, I said, I don't know what the hell's going to happen here, but I think when this war thing wraps up, there's going to be a question of how do we fund the U.S. government, right? And that's the whole theory of crypto, that it's based on the collapse of the dollar, and this is why you should buy Bitcoin, and I always thought that was Mickey Mouse. She argues that we should forget the long end. The long end should be market-based. And there's like a certain, I like that. Like there's certain things the government should control, and there's certain things that the government shouldn't try to control. For example, the price of oil. That doesn't work. She says, well, we have these things called dollars. They're created by the U.S. government. And of course, throughout universities, the University of Chicago and Milton Friedman, and all the white people's heads explode when she says that. So she says, well, why don't we just be honest what we're doing and admit that we're going to have to make a whole bunch of these things to keep this all working. What do you mean the Fed's going to turn on QE? No, the Fed needs to go do Fed stuff, which is It's a private bank that is supposed to back up the private banks. That's what it was originally created for. We got it here basically through Britain, but originally it was a Dutch invention. Dutch and I think Swedish. So she says, why don't we just admit what the fuck's going on here is we need more of these and we don't have them and we can't infinitely borrow 3, 5, 10, 15, 30, 50 years out. So why don't we just focus on the real problem is we need more of these. Where are they going to come from? The Treasury. What do you mean? This is the greenback, people. This is how Lincoln won the war. And what I would like to say, I won't take too much of your time on this. Ask yourself this. If the United States wanted to print $1 trillion, right? It was doing that like every 9 months coming out of 2008, the great financial crisis. Did the dollar collapse? No. Was there a little inflation? Yeah. There's been inflation since the Fed was created. But if we announce that we have to create more of these to sort of get our house in order, it's conceivable that nothing would happen if the wars are done. If we're going to create another trillion of these to go murder more Muslims and Ukrainians and shoot drones at Russian nuclear delivery systems, we're fucked. So I think what we're headed into, and I think Trump doesn't even know which way but Bannon is the one that said, let's nationalize SpaceX. And I was like, did someone say nationalize? We sort of need to nationalize the U.S. government. Because we just turned it over to plantation. We just turned it over to some fucking clown who wrote a book called The Technological Republic. We just usurped ourselves. And Trump knows it. And Steve Bannon knows it. This is weird, people. I don't think left-right has anything to do with anything anymore. We are, like, the U.S. government is in an existential situation exactly the way the Fourth Turning explained. That in so many words, and I make content like this, I'm like, we're in 1776, 1812, because we have this big empire thing we're part of. 1860, of course, the Confederacy attacks Fort Sumter. You guys know the thing. 1929, 1932, 1940, 1941, like all at the same time. And it's for the first time, really for the first time in our history, we're being pushed into a situation where we have to address how the dollar works. This is a coaster right now, it's not a dollar. And issuing people 100-year IOUs, that's not going to work. That's DOA. That's not going to work. Then the other part of her argument to this is she says, and nobody talks about this, and I don't know why nobody talks about this. She says there's other ways to deal with inflation. What? Like I just watched Milton Friedman say, we know where inflation comes from. It comes from government spending. Let's just think about this for a minute. So let's say the government built Long Beach Port or the George Washington Bridge or some other major infrastructure like the Tennessee Valley Authority. The Tennessee Valley Authority does not create inflation. Tennessee Valley Authority lowers the cost of energy. Well, that's, and at the time there was a big thing like, why is FDR fucking around in the utility business? And he would say to them, like over a cocktail, and said, well, you didn't build the fucking dam, you didn't make the power, so I did. The Republican Party was founded on many things, one of which was the greenback, free soil, the end of slavery, of course, and the Intercontinental Railroad, which was subsidized by the federal government. We are in the biggest structural change politically, easily since the Vietnam War, easily since the Depression, and I think this only compares to the Civil War. And that's why we're talking about the currency. We need to nationalize everything, and we need to start with the dollar.